Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, we will go over Shattered Lance Crit Cold Maul Werebear, where we just simply body slam enemies into submission. Just so you guys know, if you've already played the Swarmblade version of this build, it is a simple swap in between them, as you mainly just need to change a few skills and a few passives, as the gearing required is pretty much identical. So that is why I haven't changed much in terms of gear from the Swarmblade video that I finished yesterday. Before we get into the video, if you're enjoying the content, I'd suggest leaving a like, as that's the best way to support the channel currently and the best way to tell YouTube that I'm doing a good job. So much like Swarmblade, we thought Druid was absolute trash on release, but through some determination we found a few specs that actually function. This is one of them. We are using Shard of the Shattered Lances set to give us 15% increased melee cold damage per 10 HP regen, and currently have 700 HP regen, resulting in over 1150% increased melee cold damage, allowing us to actually deal damage as Werebear. This, as well as the insane amount of melee flat cold on each shard, meaning we have a recipe for success. Werebear is a lot different from his Swarmblade cousin, as he is a lot more burst oriented, at least this version of the build. This means it's a lot better in monoliths than it is on bosses. As you could tell in the Oribus footage, I wasn't killing him very fast in comparison to some other builds, but I also was never in the threat of death. With the 700 HP regen and all of our DR Werebear gets, like aspect of the boar, the 16% against nearby enemies, and the insane impervious stacks of the top of Druid, it means I can literally just stand on top of Oribus and DPS him down. Another good thing about this version is the ease of capping our crit. We get 10% base crit from Maul inside the Werebear tree, an insane amount of increased crit from Swipe, Warcry, and the Druid tree. This combined with the 100% crit multi in Fury Leap and the 100% increased crit multi from Swipe makes our crits do insane damage, at least for a Werebear, of course. If you compare it to other builds, it's obviously ZDPS, but the thing is as well, other builds that can do a lot better damage are also much squishier, so you would have a much harder time in terms of actually dealing that damage. So for sustaining rage, we have two main sources: 2 rage on crit hit on the top of the Werebear tree. This is a lot considering it applies to every single crit. So if we maul a pack and hit 5 enemies and crit them all, we gain back 10 rage. We then use the Spriggan technique where we make our Fury Leap create vines, then use the rage per vine node inside Spriggan Form's tree, meaning we pretty much are always topped off on rage no matter what we do. Obviously, this interaction seems insane, so I doubt it survives the next few patches. If this has been nerfed, you can probably stop watching now because the build is mad without the rage per vine interaction. With all that being said, let's get into the video, shall we? Alright, here we are in game with the build. Like I said, the build is almost completely exact as the last video, except we change a few skills and we change a little bit of the gearing and the passives. And this isn't me being lazy, this is just being the cold set being so efficient at what it does. Obviously, games like D3 in the past have been criticized for sets being so overpowered that they make certain build choices be easy, but I think having a few sets actually be good is completely healthy for the game, and the Shattered Lance set isn't really overpowered per se, it's just simply a way to enable an archetype that normally would not work, which is cold crit on Druid. At least cold crit melee attacks. Cold crit spells should do completely fine. But yeah, so I left my clothing and I left my clothing at home, so let me get dressed. There you go. Absolutely amazing transformation there. I love that. So sexy. Also, Werebear itself is very sexy too. So for the skill rotation on enemies, we just simply Warcry once, swipe once, and then we can proceed to maul them. That's pretty much it. There's not really much else with the build. Just mauling and using Warcry. As you can tell, we actually do pretty decent crits. So that's nice. In comparison to a lot of other people I've been seeing, it's really good damage. I know Amarathi did actually might be a better version than this, where he goes for Maul plus plus upheaval. But the thing is, that one's all. He was also using what's it called, the earthquake, Broldar's Wrath, which requires you to run Spriggan companion, because you can't, because you don't have crit on your weapons, yada yada yada. You have to deal with that otherwise. Now that version, it leans a lot more heavily into running running, of course, the node that gives you vines. The reason why I'm building it like this is so that if vines do get nerfed, which I pretty much believe they will, it means that this build will still be close to functional afterwards. So let's get into the skills, shall we? So for the first skill here, we got Werebear. It's pretty simple. So I take 5 points into Rip and Tear. This makes our Maul do 75% more damage. We want as many juicy more damage modifiers as possible. 2 points travel to Armor Sunder. This gives you a little bit of armor shred on bosses, but you can get better sources other places. And then of course, also as well, on down here below me, this is Insatiable, gives us 8% base crit for our Maul, which means that we can actually crit with our Maul without having to run base crit on our weapons, which is because we're running double shard, which is really good. Then of course we run 200% crit chance here as well, which is really strong as well. 3 points into Territorial. If you had a +2 to Werebear, which I do not have, you'd put the 2 points in here for the extra area, makes your Maul hit really large areas, and it's like insane. 2 points into Fear of the Maul, because you want it to be spamming Maul as much as possible, so you want as much cooldown as possible. You could also run cooldown while transformed on your helm, and this would be even shorter of a cooldown. Actually, there, it'd be even shorter of a cooldown. You'd have even less than this. And of course, 3 points into Bloodthirst Travel. Now, as a TLDR, Bleed lags my computer heavily, so I am currently using a Manlin's Hubris to fix that. In the actual build planner, I have a pair of gloves that give us like HP regen, which will bring us all the way up to 900 HP regen if you have the correct thing, which is like close to like 300% increased damage. So it's probably a good idea to eventually upgrade to those. But like I said, I'm stuck using Malin's because EHG thought it'd be funny to lock the lunge node that make, not the lunge, but the Fury Leap node that actually makes Maul work behind the bleed nodes, which is really funny, to be honest, if I really think about it. Then 1 point into, and you must be wondering, why aren't I running this? That converts the damage from Maul. Well, it makes all of our added damage to lightning, which is bad for us, obviously. Then, of course, 1 point into Skull Crusher makes it so we use the Fury Leap tree, which we're about to talk about. So Fury Leap here, we take 3 points into Panther Strike, so we get more cooldown recovery speed. I believe this applies to Maul. I'm not entirely sure, but 30% more damage is still strong. 2 points travel into Ambush Predator. There's a lot of other builds that use more points into this. I don't really like leaning into this as hard because it makes our boss DPS look terrible, while our clear obviously looks amazing. You don't need to do gigantic crits against white mobs. You need to do gigantic crits against bosses, right? So this isn't really a node that I really care about, although it does make it very easy to blow up rares in the monolith. And of course, 4 points into Rise. This makes it so Fear Leap, or i.e. Maul, whenever we leave down a few Raging Vines. Now, I believe the more mana-hungry version of the build can run Poisonous Thicket as well, but I only want one side because I felt like as though that's enough mana. Obviously, this is the thing that might get nerfed in the future, this plus this node, the Garden of Rage, so I'm not entirely sure this will be alive in like the next few days when the hotfix comes, so we'll see. 4 points in the Crater, get as much AoE as possible so that you can clear packs pretty easily. 5 points in a Savage Impact, this is just generic more damage, so we want as much more damage as possible. Then 2 points into Brutal Impact. We obviously could want more points in this. We could get plus the Fury Leap, and this would be insane to get 2 more points in this, get even more crit multi. Or you could go into like the, we could always go for Aspect of the Mantis for an extra Maul. You could do that. I don't really care about these nodes because the problem is like, well, it's not like an extra charge. So what happens is like when you gain it back, you actually end up resetting Maul's cooldown, which is like, it's useless. It's like you might as well just wait for the next sleep. You could use this if you want to. You'd get some like double leap sometimes, and that would help you kill like bigger mobs. That's pretty much it for that though. And that's pretty much it for Fear Leap. Now for Spriggan Form, literally only 2 nodes matter. So we're grabbing 5 nodes and creeping underbrush. I mean, so that whenever vines die, we actually summon more vines, which helps us with our rage sustain. Then 3 points into Garden of Rage to give us 3 rage per second per vine. This is probably going to get nerfed into oblivion, so have fun while you have it. The rest of the points literally do not matter. You could do anything. I just put the ranged ones on because it looks cool. That's it. It's like it doesn't really matter. You could change it to like ice. It really doesn't matter. This is the one that matters, right? Then, of course, for swipe here, it is the 100% utility buff setup. Mainly, we're grabbing the crit and the crit multi from here. Makes it so we can cap our crit without having to run much crit on our gear, which is really nice. Then, of course, for Warcry here, we take 1 point travel into Staggering Roar, 1 point into Kinetic Stream Travel, 2 points into Shredding Howl. That turns into Frostbite thanks to that, so I don't have to worry about that either, even if I didn't have to wear Malins. Then 1 point into Shallow Breath for the cooldown, 2 points into Deep Roar, 4 points into Battle Cry for the crit, 1 point travel into Jormun's Wrath, 5 points into Frostclaw. This cold damage actually applies to you because we are doing insane amounts of cold damage, so this is just a bunch of cold damage. Then 1 point into Bringer of Winter for a bunch of crit as well. You also get Chance to Chill, which is really nice on Orbis, which slows him down so that you can tank him easier. Now, I am running 2 nodes to try out Energized Charge and Haste. I don't know if this is entirely worth it or not. You could always go for extra area. You could go for invulnerability. There's a lot of things you could actually do. You could actually go for pull instead of knockback, meaning you can pull things into you instead. That might be interesting. You can also go for taunt so things come towards you. There's a lot of things you could do, but I was trying to haste because I wanted to move through monoliths faster. And that's pretty much it for the skills. Let's talk about the passives, shall we? Literally the same exact as last time. We'll take pretty much, there's a few changes though. 6 points into Gift of the Wilderness for HP, 2 points travel into Primal Strength, 5 points into Hunter's Restoration for increased health, 1 point into Harmony of Blades so we can dual wield the swords, 1 point travel into Primal Medicine, 5 points into Ancient Call for extra HP, because since we're running HP regen, we want as much HP flat as possible. Then for Shaman, we actually don't care about the attack speed because we're only able to attack every 3 seconds. So, or yeah, about every 3 seconds. So the attack speed doesn't matter for us. Then 8 points into Shamanic Infusion for the attunement, which gives us 4% increased damage per thing, I think. I think that's attunement. Yeah, you get increased damage per attunement. I thought so. Then, of course, penetration, which is absolutely insane for these kind of builds because penetration is better on big hits than it is on like little small hits. And of course, shred is better for small hits, right? Beastmaster, your stereotypical Beastmaster setup. We just run aspect of the uh, aspect of the aspect of the shark. You could take these out, run more points in primal strength. It's probably something you could do eventually. I'm not entirely sure. I'm always in melee anyway, so I always get hit to keep up aspect of the boar. But this could be usable against bosses like the Chronomancer, which doesn't really melee you that much. So it's like, this is like dependent on what content you're doing. If you're doing like stuff that doesn't hit you with melee attacks, then run more of this and stuff like that. And for Druid here, we take 7 points into Spirit Warden, which gives us a bunch of HP, 5 points into Primordial Residence for the 10% Ellie pen. Like I said, pen is insanely strong on this build, and all of our damage is cold, which is Ellie. Then 4 points into Focus Wrath. I found 4 to be completely fine for this build, thanks to the tree. To be honest, I don't even think you need 4. You could go with 3. It doesn't really matter. Then 1 point to Rancor makes it so that whenever we're not casting abilities, we don't run out of rage, which is really nice for stuff like when you're just sitting in town or whatever. You're not like getting kicked out of Werebear, which is pretty neat. Then, of course, 5 points in the Wind of the Leaves to give you the attack speed. You do want a little bit of attack speed so that when you swipe something, it actually does it instantly. Also, as well, Maul is like affected by attack speed, so you do want a little bit so you're not too too sluggish, but thanks to the fact that we're running double 1.1 attack rate swords, like we don't need that much attack speed to make it work, right? Just enough. Also, as well, if you're having the Maul buck where it like does the audio, simply just turn off your audio and it's completely fine. I know it sucks, but like you'll just have to deal with it until they fix the bug, which will probably come in a few days. I'm not entirely sure when the hotfix is going to come. And of course, 8 points in the Piercing Gale. This is one of the nodes that makes the whole build work. Having this much insane pen makes it so that our big hits even hit harder. 6 points into Overgrowth. That 10 HP regen is a lot of more damage for us thanks to how our HP regen scales. 8 points into Rageborn for the increased crit and the Rage on crit. Then we actually end up being able to take Hide Skin because we're not actually taking as much in Shaman. So we get the bunch of flat, and of course the maximum health gained is Endurance. I'm actually not capped on Endurance, as you can tell. And as you can tell in the footage, I was able to tank that. That Orbis like it was nothing. And I'm also not running Berserker as well. So that pretty much tells you how tanky I was with how little I was actually running. Then, of course, 5 points in Impervious. This node's absolutely busted on bossing. 20% chance to gain Impervious stacks, which you lose stacks as you get hit. This is only good on bosses. If you find as though you never have Impervious stacks, you could always just run 5 points into Berserker, and it's pretty much the same thing. And that's pretty much it for the passives, not for the gearing. Like I stated earlier, but if you aren't here from earlier, you can't, like, I am running melons just so that I can actually play the game because bleed lags me, and you're forced to go into bleed as a werebear. You could run HP regen. You could actually even run the unique gloves, the Ravenous Voids, for even more DR. You could literally run anything other than these gloves, and you'll do absolutely amazingly. The only reason I'm using it is because bleed actually lags my machine. So it could literally just not be there and it wouldn't matter. And for the helm, same helm as last time. You want crit multi while transformed, obviously, and vitality on the prefix. Then bone amulet. I actually managed to seal a pretty decent one. Of course, the health regen didn't roll much past T1, I believe. If that would have rolled T2, if that would have rolled like T7 health regen, this would have been nuts. The cold damage really helps us. The mana regen is completely worth those. So you could probably go crit multi, or just cold damage crit multi, or cold pen. Actually, cold pen might be worth it. Double shard of the Shattered Lance. If you don't know how to farm these are from the Stolen Lance. The whole set is, so you can farm all 3 of these from there, from the normal version. You can either do that. The deicide is absolutely insane for us as a werebear because of getting 20% more damage, and movement speed helps when you feel so sluggish. And of course, all of the stats on it are relevant for us because we're scaling melee cold damage. Then for the chest is your absolutely perfect chest, and seems to be on a better base. You could run the Fizz Res Blessing because Fizz Res one because you don't need that much movement speed, or you could run the movement speed one, obviously. And for rings, probably either strength, or it's like, I guess you'd go for like probably elemental damage strength, then resistance, HP, or health regen. Make sure you're running double coral rings though, because you want the health regen flat, which is really strong for this build. Because the more health regen flat is, the more increased damage you actually get. So you want as much health regen flat as possible. See, this ring is absolutely garbage, but like it doesn't matter because we have so much increased damage from our suffixes. So you can run, of course, probably strength and the same thing. I said gloves, you could run attack speed, strength, or crit. You could run HP regen. You could run it on engraved gauntlets. You could run it on the void res gauntlets. Depends on what blessings and stuff you have. This is your absolutely perfect boots. It just needs to be rolled better. Then of course, fragment of Shattered Lance. This is required. Shut up, alarm. And that's pretty much it. Oh god, I should be waking up by now. Ooh, it's 7 a.m. I totally haven't been up all night. But yeah, fragments of the Shattered Lance is really strong as well for this build. And that's what pretty much it. For idols, you actually don't need that. I'm dumb. Okay. You want chance to summon on Thorn Totem and like probably cold damage per totem. Either that or health regen while transformed. I'm stupid. And what you actually want here, you could actually run. So I gotta find it. Where is it? Where is it? I'll find it. I swear I will. I remember dropping one. I remember dropping it. Although that wouldn't have been good. No, I remember dropping it. Where is it? Where is it? I remember dropping it. It was like somewhere around here. Here it is. Health regen while transformed, which gives us a bunch of increased damage. Now let's swap over. We're like 590 without Werebear. And of course, we got a bunch of health regen while transformed. So 758, which is insane. So you want melee crit multi and health regen while transformed. You want melee crit multi, health regen while transformed. That is like your perfect idols. You run 4 of those, then health regen while transformed, and whatever else you can get on the prefix. And that's pretty much it for the idols. And that's pretty much it for the gear. I will be honest with you guys. I do have a lot of blessings. I have the Void Res blessing. This could be crit multi. I have the health regen. This could be rolled better. This is like your best in slot blessing. So this is the thing you should farm first. I know Lagon's timeline sucks, but you really need that health regen because that is a lot of health regen. That is like 3 suffixes worth of health regen when it's like fully upgraded, which is nuts. You can run Crit Avoid or Resistance here. I'm running Cold Shred. Cold Shred doesn't really matter for this build. You could actually, if you're specifically wanting to play Werebear and not the Swarm Blade version, you actually don't need Cold Shred at all. You could just run something else, which is completely fine. Then, of course, for this, I'm running Fire Res. You could run Endurance as well. I just got unlucky and got Fire Res instead. And that's pretty much it. For legendary items, I'm not entirely sure. Probably some of the Werebear sets, some of the Werebear stuff for chests. Obviously, Ravenous Void's a really good slot here if you do have it. I'm not really sure. Like everything, you want everything here, to be honest, rares, because that gives you the most damage. So I don't really think, what is it called? You want the Throne of Ambition. You want Throne of Ambition because it gives you increased armor, increased cold damage. You could technically run it over one of these, and that would make your bossing even easier. And I think that's it. Yeah. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.